Comfort is often the first thing we're willing to give up, like taking a long flight for a vacation or waking up early for a workout. But don't let style be the reason you aren't comfy. Mack Weldon's Ace Collection makes it effortless to look put together while feeling truly comfortable. Inspired by their best-selling sweatpants, the Ace Collection combines everyday comfort with long-lasting and confident looks. Upgrade your collection for the new year with bomber jackets, half-zips, sweats, crew necks, and much more. Get comfortable anywhere with Mack Weldon's Ace Collection. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code MACK25. That's MackWeldon.com. Promo code MACK25.
A purple little lady will be perfect for dirty old and useless clown. So yeah, start wearing purple, start wearing purple for me now. All your sanity and wits, they will all vanish, I promise.
So, Paul, I hear you're Antoine de Caunes for the next 3 weeks or so.
Bonjour Edouard, comment ça va? J'espère que vous passez une très bonne semaine.
Nein, wo ist der Krankenhaus?
Un helado de fresas, por favor. La segunda a la izquierda.
Very good.
That's it, right? That's just exhausted all the European languages. We'll have to learn some more before next week's. Ed, I'm super excited. It's a major international football tournament starting, well, today as you all listen to this. I love it. Euro 2012.
Gotta love it, and it's all the better for the fact that there's no hype surrounding England, which is a joy, a real joy. The next best thing to England not qualifying is there being zero expectations about England winning the thing. So we can just enjoy the football, right?
But before we talk about pretend made-up international football, let's talk about actual real football, because in the 2 and a bit weeks we've been off the air, or 3 weeks or so that we've been off the air, some stuff has happened.
Stuff has happened. Much stuff. We waited and we waited and we waited, and God, also known as Eden Hazard, proclaimed. What did he proclaim, Paul?
He proclaimed, moi je vais aller au Chelsea parce que j'aime bien l'argent.
Yes, lots of argent.
Yeah, he went to Chelsea for the money. Perfectly reasonable decision for a young sportsman.
I thought it was the outstanding project.
Oh yeah, might be that, might be that. He said, I'm going to join the European champions on Twitter, which some wags replied, European champions of what year? It just didn't seem like United material from the way he handled himself in this transfer saga, although of course I would have been delighted had he chosen United. I'd pretty much written off that there was any possibility of that happening, but then it kept sort of feeling like, actually, wait a minute, this talk isn't going away.
Yeah, I always thought that was negotiation tactics. As I've been on record for many months, I was dead on certain that Hazard was not coming to United, so it didn't surprise me in the slightest at all. And although some French journalists were saying that money was not his primary motivation, I thought they were wrong, and those people who did say that were definitely proven wrong. We can be sensible about this kind of thing. What are the two biggest things footballers generally look for? It's money and the potential for success or winning things or whatever it is, and probably money way out in front there. And Chelsea were always going to offer more money, and so were City, although City apparently balked at the £6 million demanded by Hazard's agency. I should say agency because they're a big international conglomerate. And so Chelsea were the realistic destination after that. Plus they can offer silverware, FA Cup winners, European champions, and United didn't win it last season. That's got to play some factor in the thinking too.
Yeah, but who cares, because we've got Kakagawa, hoorah! He's come, Shinji's on his way. It's an exciting signing, that is, isn't it?
It is an exciting signing, yeah. I have to say I've got pretty frustrated with some of the response to it. I mean, I've seen him enough times now that I feel pretty confident about what kind of player he is and his strengths and weaknesses, and so I did a piece on the blog and then a few posts on Twitter and stuff like that, and even the mere hint of some kind of not even criticism, but adding a condition or two to the praise was roundly criticised by my Twitter followers. It was a bit odd, but anyway, the summary is he's a number 10. This is what he is. It's I would argue the first time Ferguson's ever signed this kind of player, which is a break from the norm, and that's why it's pretty exciting. I think he's a young player, even though he's 23. He's pretty inexperienced really, because because he spent most of his formative years in Japanese League 2, which is no kind of standard of football at all. And he's had 2 seasons in Germany, and really only 1.5 because he broke a metatarsal the season before the one just finished, and only really played half of that season. So he's made a big impression. He scores goals, great range of passing, great turn of speed. I think United fans will really enjoy watching him, but he is a bit wasteful with that passing. Sometimes he's over-ambitious, and it'd be interesting to see how United deal with that. I've never seen him really play well when he's not playing in the hole. So he plays for Japan wide left in the front three quite often. I have to say that a few times, including the game I watched the other day versus Oman, this is how obsessive I am about football. Watching Japan versus Oman on a Japanese TV channel. Pretty weird. But he played wide left and he wasn't very good. And I think, there will be some of those weaknesses there. Plus, he was subbed in 3/4 of the games he played for Borussia Dortmund, or 2/3 or so, which suggests a bit of a problem with stamina as well. So we'll see how he develops. I don't think this is a sure thing.
You know how people say, footballers always look good on YouTube, and obviously they do, but there's 2 YouTube videos that made me extremely glad we've signed Shinji Kagawa, and they're not those fantastic compilations to drum and bass and Euro techno of him doing flicks and tricks. There's the one, the Kagawa, where a Borussia fan has made a cartoon all about Shinji Kagawa and how awesome he is, which I think is a good sign if the fans of the team you play for do stuff like that. And the other is one which at Vishkosh linked to, where there's just like a mum behind the camera going, Shinji, and a baby goes, Kagawa. And if you don't feel bad about United having signed him for Borussia after seeing that, there's something wrong with you. But yeah, obviously a little bit of a cult status at Borussia, and just the kind of player he is an exciting signing.
Yeah, he's dynamic. He's very dynamic. I mean, it's going to be a change in United's tactics, and it probably means that Rooney's going to play up top, and Kagawa will play sort of in the hole, and maybe Rooney will rotate through those positions, because I would have thought Ferguson will be quite careful with the amount of games that Kagawa plays in his first season in England. For sure, in fact, I'd be surprised if he plays more than 35, 40 games in all competitions, something like that. And what that means for Danny Welbeck and Chicharito is interesting as well. I mean, you can kind of think about it as a more of a replacement for Berbatov in squad terms, obviously not positionally, because it might be that United don't sign a striker, or if they do, it might be a young striker rather than, a marquee striker. I don't think anyone thinks that's going to happen. And there'll be some rotation there. But Danny Welbeck's just come off his finest ever campaign. He might find himself out the side.
I don't know though, because I think Matt at Big Red M tweeting that actually Rooney up front and the 3 behind him, Nani Young and Kagawa behind him, is a pretty excellent plan B. And your plan A is a kind of 4-4-2 with Valencia on the right and someone on the left, and then you get to play the 2 forwards. And against the smaller sides, that's what we'll do. So I think there'll still be plenty of games for all the players, won't there?
Well, Kagawa's not going to play in a 2 in central midfield. I'll tell you that now. He's just not that kind of player. Yeah, I mean he won't be in the side basically.
That's what I'm saying. Or he'll play on the left and cut in and be less effective.
Yeah, well, that's the worry, isn't it? Fergie will do a Fergie and tinker the life out of him, and he'll end up playing. I mean, remember Ji-sung Park, and I hate to make that comparison because people start thinking I'm talking about shirt sales or something like that, but Ji-sung Park was that kind of player at PSV. He was a utility forward who'd often play sort of in the hole, and then he became something completely different at United, and you kind of hope that Fergie doesn't, completely Fergie the creativeness out of Kagawa over the next few years.
But you don't know how there's no guarantee that Fergie will be working with Kagawa over the next few years. No. That's the other thing, because it could be not so much time, and it's more of that age profile stuff as well. I mean, obviously it's a Glazonomics signing because there's definitely potential for his value to increase. And
it's a good deal because he's into the last year of his contract, although, it's still probably going to end up nearer the £18 million mark. What normally happens with these, I mean, it's structured at 12 million initial and then another 6 million for bonuses. Normally United pays that up early, so they've done that with quite a lot of deals. Did it with Rooney, did it with Ferdinand, opposite way around with Beckham and a few others as well. So they'll probably pay up early and end up in the £17 million range or so.
Fergie's talked about wanting to leave an age profile at the club that's appropriate, and he's fits into that signing. He could be part of, and we did a joint podcast with the lads from Seven Cantonars, which you can find at sevencantonars.com, and we talked a lot about United's tiki-taka from last August, and Kagawa looks definitely like a signing that indicates that that's the way we're looking to play, because he's all about the flicks and short passes and all that stuff, isn't he,
Oh, certainly, yeah. He's not a man who's going to be dictating play from the centre of the park, though, so...
We're gonna sign him before the end of the summer, right, Ed?
Yeah, this is a Euro preview, but it was good to get Kagawa out of the way. That's it for United stuff, well-ish. I mean, it is a United podcast, so we've got to come back to some United interest. And there's quite a lot of United interest, actually, at the Euros. There's 6 players and 7 ex-players, so even if you're not an England fan, or you're not based in England, or either or both, then there's going to be plenty of United-related interests throughout the tournament.
Absolutely. So let's get on with it. And what better place to start than that sparkling excitement, the real feast of football that is Group A of the 2012 European Championships, starting with the Czech Republic, coached by Michael Bilek, a man that 96% of Czech fans apparently want to see sacked after a very shaky qualifying campaign. They limped to second place in their group, finishing 2 points ahead of Scotland. That's not a good sign. Then managed to trounce Montenegro in the playoff for their spot in the tournament. That their left back, who takes the penalties, was top scorer with 4 goals, points out that their key problem, which is they don't score enough, managing just 12 in 8 games in qualifying. Czech fans can, however, rest easy because, ladies and gentlemen, Euros Championship legend Milan Baros is on that plane. If that ex-Liverpool connection wasn't enough for you to not want to support the Czech Republic, Vladimir Smica is their team manager. Whatever a team manager is. Doesn't the team manager, isn't that just the bloke that looks after the equipment?
Yeah, he's the bloke that makes sure they get on the right bus at the right time, and they've got a hotel, and the hookers are arriving at the appropriate hour, and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah,
they did get in trouble for taking all their clothes off to celebrate victory over Montenegro in the playoffs, so they
Very
are
nice.
clearly a bit leery.
I mean, we'll come on to the group of death later, but this is Group A, the group of boredom, isn't it? It's the worst group in it by miles.
This is clearly the group of being absolutely bored to death. That's what it is. Without wishing to be too best league in the world about this, their best players, it's probably quite hard to look beyond Petr Cech and Tomáš Rosický. Rosický is often played out of position at Arsenal, but has 86 caps for the Czech Republic. A special shout out as well to the fact that they have a player called Theodore Gabri Selassie, which is awesome. What a cool name to have.
Well, he can run marathons even if they don't win the championship.
I'm going to assume that his stamina stat on Football Manager is really high. Maybe it's wrong to assume that, but I will.
So Milan Baros not going to win it for the Czech Republic then?
Perhaps not. Petr Cech's an excellent keeper, but they just don't score any goals. And if you look down the list of caps and goals scored, barely anyone's got hardly any goals ever, and they've all got loads and loads of caps. So it's going to be tricky. But Rosický plays in the hole for the Czech Republic, much more effective there than he is out wide for Arsenal. He's kind of their main man.
Right, yeah.
And that makes a big difference. And
I get the impression the Czech Republic are a side on the slide a little bit. I mean, they've been brought up on some outstanding players over the last 20 years, haven't they? And this is a team without all those stars. Although the Czech Republic has created the greatest merc in the history of football championships, Karol Poborský, completely murking Ferguson into buying him after Euro 96.
what a merc, I watched that goal again the other day. Absolutely stunning. I would not say, however, that's the defining moment of the Czech history with the European Championships. Czechoslovakia, as they were then, won the tournament in 1976, and in that 1996 tournament, the Czech Republic made it to the final, losing out to a heartbreaking golden goal from the Germans, and setting themselves up as perennial, slightly underinformed English football fans' dark horses. Basically, anyone, you get that all the time. I reckon the Czech Republic will be good, because in 1996 no one expected them to be good, and they were. And
that's right.
Yeah. However, Jonathan Wilson has picked them as dark horses for this very tournament. He's the least underinformed man in the world, so he must know something we don't.
Yeah, of course. They are the team of the famous chipped penalty goal, aren't they?
I don't remember the famous chipped penalty goal.
1976, the shootout versus Germany, and he chipped it down the middle.
And scored? Wow,
and scored.
Nice.
And scored.
They're always good to have in tournaments because of the high chance of a mullet. A very important factor in the European Championships is how many mullets you can spot. throughout the tournament, because when the football inevitably gets a little bit dull, mullets help everyone's enjoyment of these things. Also worth pointing out that their number 7, Thomas Nesid, wears the entirely unacceptable number 89 on his back for his club CSKA in Moscow.
Obviously, as you do.
89, that's just not acceptable as a squad number.
IQ.
I guess it's the year of his birth and 7 wasn't available, but still not acceptable. Another number that would be unacceptable to have on your back would be 94. Czech Republic are 94-1 to win the tournament on Betfair.
Good odds. Unlikely to pay out, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't see the potential. I mean, the one thing is they're in a terrible group, and really anything could happen in this group, as we'll come on to see. There's not a lot of goals in the whole group, basically. So, you know, once you've squeezed through the group stages, you only then have to win 3 games to win the tournament, because it goes straight from the groups to the quarterfinals. You get things like what happened in 2004 when fellow Group A members Greece won the tournament. This time they're coached by Portuguese Fernando Santos. Greece have emerged unbeaten from their group. A huge percentage of their squad plays its football in Greece, which is a factor in a few different teams, actually. There's some very cosmopolitan teams, Sweden, people from all around the world. I think only a couple of people that play in Sweden. But the Greek team and the Ukrainian team, in particular, the Polish team, a lot of players that play at home. Their defining European Championships moment obviously was in 2004, when they managed to be the first team in history to win by literally boring their opponents to death. But not to death, but
Quite literally, yeah.
into a coma, and then nicking the win. That their star players include Manchester City Hall of Famer and profound Freddie Mercury in 1979 lookalike Georgios Samaros may explain why the Greeks only managed 14 goals in qualifying. They only conceded 5, although I'm
Are
sure...
you sure that's in qualifying? Is that not 14 goals since 2004?
They sure didn't score 14 goals in that 2004 tournament, did they?
They certainly didn't, but they scored the one that mattered, and Ronaldo's tears flowed afterwards.
They only conceded 5, although I'm assured by sources that know quite a bit more about this sort of thing that they're not quite as boring as they were under Otto Rehhagel, who has left the Greek national team and has apparently been interned in The Hague for causing so much pain to so many people. His finest hour as Greek coach was in their final group game of the 2010 World Cup, when he shut up shop against Argentina at 1-0 down when they desperately needed a win. He later described the move as a cross between football and art, and asked that it be considered as a performance piece metaphor for the collapse of the Greek economy.
Brilliant.
Otto Rehhagel is the most awful manager. He's not their manager anymore, we should say, but they still set up pretty defensively. But I guess that's in part just because of the resources that are available to them. They don't have that quite slavish devotion to defensive football that they had under Rehhagel. It was unbelievable, that 2004 win. You just kept thinking every round you'd think, well, they can't do another one. And then when they came against that Portugal side, was ridiculously good as well.
It was very good, and it was the closest Ronaldo's come to having any genuine success with the national team. I have to say, I mean, I can't see Greece going very far in this tournament. I mean, they did well to qualify. They've got an excellent young defender called Kyriakos Papadopoulos, so of course he'd be called Papadopoulos for all of us, like to stereotype in these things.
You were just basing that on the bloke that owned the laundrette in EastEnders, aren't
That's
you?
right, yeah. He plays for Schalke, and he's probably one of my players to look out for. I think he's probably due a very good tournament, young defender, and probably on to bigger and better things in the future.
Absolutely. Their highest scoring player is Theophanis Gekas, who perhaps unsurprisingly has 3 times as many goals as Georgios Samaros in very slightly more appearances. And they're still captained by 35-year-old Georgios Karagounis, who's their most capped player, 115 appearances for the...
How did you say that again?
It's Georgios Karagounis.
What was that?
It's Georgios Karagounis. I think that's about right.
Awesome.
Sounds right to me. 115 appearances for the Greek national side. Uncertain how many of those were spent actually asleep because of the Otto Rehhagel factor, but we're not sure about that. They are 109-1 to win the tournament.
Very specific.
Yeah, and that's in a tournament with this few teams in it, that's kind of impressive. But it'd be interesting to know what they were in 2004, because...
Probably about the same, yeah. I mean, aside from Denmark in 92, it got to being the biggest long shot ever to have won a tournament.
Well, it's those two, isn't it? I mean, that's the interesting thing about the Euros, as because it's that shorter format. We have in our kind of lifetime's memory got these 2 absolutely kind of freak results in an international tournament, which you wouldn't necessarily expect. I mean, I'm not well...
Right.
not well informed about the other federation tournaments and their history and outsiders winning them. But I definitely think Denmark in '92, which I'm sure we'll come on to talk about, and Greece in 2004, it was just unbelievable. And they basically won by being difficult to break down and well organised, and the model for Roy Hodgson, isn't it?
Well, we'll come on to England, but there's absolutely the way that England are going to play in the tournament, and probably the only way they've got of progressing to any kind of acceptable distance.
Greece are by no means dark horses for the tournament, but they are dark horses in the mullet race. I reckon you could get a Greek mullet from time to time. They are nailed on for some top quality ponytails that you can be assured of. Talking of teams that might have a mullet or two amongst them, the Russians, coached by honorary citizen of St. Petersburg and Rangers Hall of Famer Dick Advocaat, Russia breezed through their qualifying group, which was mostly made up of places they used to run, and Andorra and Ireland. 7 of the squad played...
Have they never invaded Ireland?
Apparently not. I don't know. I reckon Ireland's been pretty left-leaning at certain points in its history, though. So maybe a few comrades kicking about. 7 of the squad play for Advocaat's old team Zenit St. Petersburg, drawing parallels with Hodgson and Liverpool. Although that's hugely unfair to Russia, Dick Advocaat, and Zenit St. Petersburg.
Ouch.
United fans will remember keeper Igor Akinfeev being thoroughly in the mix during the replacement for Van der Sar discussion.
Yep.
Arsenal and casual misogyny Hall of Famer Andrei Arshavin has returned to Zenit and may reignite his undoubted talent, which was so rarely shown during his time at the Emirates. Spurs Hall of Famer Roman Pavlyuchenko is the most prolific member of the squad with an impressive 20 goals in 47 games in a team which again doesn't score the most. Group A is going to be really boring.
Although you should point out, you should look out for Alan Zagoyev.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's an excellent young player as well, and I'm surprised that he hasn't moved out from Russia yet, but I suppose that's because of the well-paid nature of that league at the moment.
Yeah, it's a high standard of football as well, isn't it?
Russia is pretty good standard of football, actually, yeah.
Yeah, so between that being very well paid and also, it's a big cultural leap, actually, to leave Russia, much more so than if you're going from Spain to Italy or, France to Germany or whatever, where there are significant cultural shifts, but once you start to move into and out of Russia, there is a kind of profoundly different cultural impetus around.
Right, it's like moving to a foreign country, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. As the Soviet Union, Russia had an excellent record in the European Championships, winning the inaugural championships 1960 and making up the runners-up spot 3 times, including their loss to that glorious Dutch team in the final of 1988.
Still the greatest goal ever scored, isn't it? Marco van Basten.
Unbelievable. I don't know, I'd make it... Yeah, no, obviously that's the best European Championship goal ever, but we'll talk about one of my other favourites a bit later on in the show. They're 21-1 for the tournament, so they're by far the strongest squad in Group A on paper and with the bookies, and none of the other teams are even close to that. 21-1 it makes them, I think, 5th or 6th favourites for the tournament.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're a good side. Traditionally, of course, they haven't done that well in tournaments over the piece in the modern generation. I mean, had a good one last time out, didn't they? When Andrei Arshavin had such a good tournament after coming back from that ban. Be interesting to see. I mean, Advocaat's obviously an excellent manager, and he normally gets teams playing a very attacking brand of football, and that's what generally Russia are doing, and they've got a lot of very good attacking players. Will they translate it into the tournament? You can't not see them getting out of the group, and then it really depends on knockout football from there.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of... Michael Cox was saying on Football Weekly, a lot of team connections there, players that play together a lot, which does make a big difference, I think, in sort of key positions on the pitch. And Advocaat managed Zenit for a long time, a lot of Zenit players in the squad, so, there's relationships and potential there. Also, a very exciting prospect for Mullet Watch. A Russian team with no mullets is no kind of Russian team. If the Russians haven't got a mullet, I think there might not be one in sight, but surely there'll be one.
I'm sure there'll be several. What about on the Poland side, though? They've got to be the stinkers of the tournament, surely, Poland.
Well, talking of Mullet Watch, Group A is also home to the co-hosts Poland, coached by Franciszek Smuda, a man whose playing career took him to the Los Angeles Aztecs, the Hartford Bicentennials, the San Jose Earthquakes, and the even more stupidly named Oakland Stompers.
Any of those teams even exist anymore? It seems unlikely.
Either the San Jose Earthquakes, maybe. Are they an MLS side? I feel like there's an MLS side named after an earthquake, which seems weird, because what do you do when there's a terrible disaster in the world somewhere and there's an earthquake, and then you've got a game the next day and you've got the whole stadium going, earthquakes, earthquakes. It's definitely wrong that I'm biased against Poland because their manager used to manage Lech Poznan, and Poznan will always be associated with City winning the league this season, but still, that's just the way it is.
I think it's perfectly fair. It's not irrational as a hatred. It's perfectly rational. I see the line.
And with no need to qualify how well their team performs under the pressure of the home crowds is a real uncertainty, but they boast everyone's dark horse pick for top scorer, Dortmund's Robert Lewandowski. You just hear that over and over again, people suggesting that he might be the top scorer, although it seems remarkably unlikely to me, just because I don't see how Poland are going to create a lot against a bunch of well-organised teams, because the thing about Group A is none of the teams can score, but they can all defend.
Yep. Lewandowski scored 400 goals this season or whatever it is for Dortmund, a huge amount. He's had a fantastic campaign, and obviously there was the press links with United. I think that's not one that's going to come off, but yeah, you're right. Are they going to be able to create enough chances for him to score in a what looks like it's going to be a very tight group? I don't think so, and I think they'll probably end up going out, and that's a bit of a shame for the tournament. It's always good when the host nation or nations do well, isn't it?
It is. They're also very inexperienced national side. Only one player in the squad has more than 50 international caps. That's Auxerre defensive midfielder Dariusz Studka. Another key player, I'd say, Wojciech Szczesny, is really looking like a proper keeper. He's 22 and he plays for Arsenal, which is a recipe for calamitous disaster in keepers. But
he's a very good keeper, and I think a lot will rest on him. And isn't Fabianski injured as well? So
he's not in the squad, Fabianski. I don't think.
I think he's injured, and so there's going to be a lot resting on Szczesny's performances. But he's grown, and you'd expect him to be a key player for Poland.
Absolutely. As with all the teams in Group A, Poland don't score a lot. Must be a bit annoyed that all their best strikers keep declaring themselves German. I think it's fair to say that I can't really think of a defining Euro moment for the Polish side, but perhaps co-hosting the 2012 tournament will become that. 47-1 to win the tournament, so twice as likely as Greece, according to the bookies, to win the tournament. I'm not sure that's right. They are 1-5 on to feature in the post-tournament Mullet Watch.
Very good. The group of mullet.
It is actually dull teams, but there could be some exciting haircuts in that. And you never know. Sometimes when you get those kind of really boring looking groups, that's the game where you think, okay, I've watched 3 football matches a day for the last week and a half. I'm just going to skip this one, and then it ends up being a 4-3 thriller or whatever.
If Group A is a group of boredom, then Group B is definitely the group of death. There's got to be one cliched group of death, hasn't there? And this is it. I mean, it's Denmark, Germany, Holland and Portugal, and just looking on it on paper, you'd say, oh, Denmark are going to get knocked out. They're ranked about 5th in the world in I think they're 9th actually in the FIFA ranking. So this is a superb group, and Denmark finished above Portugal. Portugal had to qualify. So I take each in turn. Denmark, everyone's favourite since the 1986 World Cup. Who could forget some of the performances there? But they've got a much more functional team at the moment. Morten Olsen is the manager, has been for the last 12 years. They play in a particular style. It's not the kind of Scandinavian long ball style, but they are quite functional. They are tight at the back. They don't concede a lot of goals, and they didn't concede a lot of goals through qualification. They look like they're in decent form. They've won several of their friendlies coming into the tournament, and they've got some excellent players. And in terms of the tactics, they'll play with a sort of 4-2-3-1, as many of the teams will do at this tournament. It's all based around Ajax's Christian Eriksen. We obviously saw him this year a couple of times in the Europa League. He's an excellent young player. Actually, through those games against United, he played off the left, but he'll probably play central of the 3 behind Nicholas Bentner. And there you can see where the Danes' problems might lie in scoring goals, funnily enough.
James Starr on Twitter, when linking to an interview with Bentner, said, self-esteem's Nicholas Bentner, which I thought was a very funny description.
Very nice. And, I mean, some of that will give you an idea of what's key for Denmark in this tournament, is keeping it tight. And in that, there's 2 key players. Their central defenders, Daniel Agger from Liverpool, who's had a good season by Liverpool standards, and Simon Kjær, who has been on loan at Roma and has been quite vocal about wanting to stay there. He's actually a Wolfsburg player, and I don't know if you remember back to the 2010 World Cup. He's the defender with some shocking blonde hair, and he was at Palermo at the time and made a very strange decision to go to Wolfsburg, a team on the slide, and there's a lot of talk about him coming to England or perhaps going to one of Europe's premier clubs, and he didn't do that, but he's still a very fine defender, and so it could be that he's looking for another team after the tournament. There is some United interest in Denmark. Anders Lindegaard will probably be backup keeper. I don't think he's going to start, and no surprise there, because he of course hasn't played really since the turn of the year, but he has sort of 5 caps or so. And Kasper Schmeichel in there, a bit of a tenuous link to United, but the son of Peter Schmeichel, and done very well at Leicester City in the last year or so. Odd fact about Denmark, 4 of their players are Evian, which begs the question of why they don't play a more fluid style.
Oh my good lord! Don't have to look too far for their defining Euros moment, do we?
We certainly do. That incredible one where, well, myth has it they were on the beach and got the call after the Yugoslav war started, and Yugoslavia were kicked out of the tournament, and Denmark actually, it's a bit of a myth because they did actually have a couple of friendlies to play, so the squad were together, but entered the tournament and managed to win it with big Peter Schmeichel making his mark on the international stage.
I remember it was because of that tournament that I was so incredibly excited about Schmeichel signing for United.
It was an amazing moment, an amazing tournament, and Schmeichel was awesome throughout it, and it was just a stunning performance by the whole team that had a real sense of togetherness, and that's actually not always been the case with Denmark. I mean, famously the Laudrup brothers have fallen out with coaches now and again, throughout the time, and I think actually Michael Laudrup will probably end up being the coach after the tournament. It looks like Morten Olsen's going to retire, although he has said this about 5 times previously that he's going to retire, and each time he gets a new contract extension, so we'll see whether that is the case. It looks like he's going to go, and if so, it'll be the last tournament for this team, but it's a team on the up. They did very well to qualify, and so even in a very difficult group, they are going to take points off some.
You have to say, though, if what they need more than anything else is to keep it tight, they could really do without being in a group with Germany, Holland and Cristiano Ronaldo.
That's right. There are some other players in Portugal, but we'll go on to Portugal. What about Germany? I mean, here's a team who've won the European Championships 3 times before, 72, 80 and 96. They won all 10 of their qualification games for this tournament.
That was very efficient of them, Edward.
Yeah, very efficient, wasn't it? But this is the thing, they've got rid of this German efficiency, and they're now playing this attacking fluid style, and when Jürgen Klinsmann took over nearly 8 years ago now, he sat down with his then assistant Jogi Löw, who's the manager, and they decided that they were going to implement a fast-paced attacking style, and that's what they've done extremely successfully, and so they've integrated tons and tons of young players. They do have the youngest squad on average in the tournament, but there's a strange contradiction here, because also within their squad they've got 7 of the top 20 most capped players in Germany's history, and they're all likely to play or if not all start a key role, so they've got loads of youth but also loads of experience, and I think that makes for a really good blend. If Spain aren't going to win it, they're probably my favourites, Germany. I think they've got a really excellent team. What they have been doing in the recent friendlies is messing around with tactical systems, so they played 3 at the back on occasion, didn't work for them, conceded 5 in Switzerland as a result. Their one real problem is how to integrate Mario Götze, though. He's this outstanding young creative Borussia Dortmund player, and sort of the other creative player in the Dortmund side other than Kagawa, who's spent quite a lot of the second half of the season injured, and Kagawa sort of took on the real mantle there. But how are they getting in the side? Because Thomas Muller has obviously been outstanding, not had the best season for Bayern Munich, but has got a great record with Germany, so you'd think he'd start on the right hand side of a sort of front 3 or so. And so how do they get Götze into the side? Do they play him in the 2 with Schweinsteiger and drop Khedira, or do they drop Muller? And that's a difficult one for them to choose. But I think in Mesut Ozil, the ghost, as Ferguson calls him, they've possibly got one of the tournament's outstanding players. He's had a brilliant season in Real Madrid, and I think it's really set for him to dominate this tournament. And in Mario Gomez, they've got a player who's scored 40 goals this season, just not quite at the crucial time in the Champions League final. Rather unfortunate for him. And then at the back, they're sort of marshalled by Mertesacker and Philipp Lahm, who's their captain, an excellent player. Boateng, who's been so good with Bayern Munich this season, even if he failed at Manchester City. So all being all, an outstanding chance here, I think, for Germany. Random fact here, Miroslav Klose and Lukas Podolski. I mean, frankly, they're rubbish, aren't they? 106 international goals between them. Podolski will definitely start. Klose might end up being on the bench. But it's just incredible how many... I mean, Klose's almost got more international goals than he's got club goals. Not quite, but not far off either.
He's the Michael Owen of Germany, isn't he? Except he did it at a much, much higher level than we, Mickey.
He did indeed. Defining Euro moment. They've got so many, Germany, which is a difficult one to pick out. But I suppose the most dramatic might be Oliver Bierhoff's 95th minute winner against the Czech Republic at Euro 96 to win the tournament.
My defining memory of Germany at the Euros is Möller's celebration after he scored the winning penalty to knock England out of Euro 96. And just the sheer arrogance on his face as he kind of silenced the whole of Wembley and allowed Germany to steal footballs coming home from England.
Has it scarred you? Is this why you're bringing out the stereotypes? Not only are they functional and efficient, but they're arrogant as well.
No, that was it was a gloriously arrogant celebration, incredibly appropriate to the way he handled the situation. Germany are a brilliant side, and I'm really looking forward to watching them in this tournament, and you get the feeling that this could really be their time.
I think it could be, yeah.
4 years ago, and at the World Cup before that, the 2006 World Cup, no one expected anything from Germany, and they still managed, that kind of, the nascent kernel of the squad that exists now has been together for a long time, and they're adding these incredibly talented young players into the fold as they come through, and, you get the feeling that German football is on a high in general. The Bundesliga is a phenomenally kind of cool league, and the side just represents something about the new Germany, the ideal of the new Germany, kind of integrated and dynamic and kind of cultural and cultured side.
Right, yeah.
And they're going to be a joy to watch. And I'd love them to do well at this tournament. I think they play football in the right way, different to how Spain play, in their kind of Barcelona model. But they
a completely different style. But that's one of the things that will make it very interesting if those two end up playing each other later in the tournament. Of course, another favourite for the tournament is Holland, 1988 winners, of course, with that stunning goal we've just talked about. And they've built on their World Cup last time. I mean, people remember the World Cup for the kind of thuggish display in the final, don't they? But they actually played some really good football throughout the tournament. It's just in the final they gave up all that football and decided to try and kick Spain into submission. It didn't quite work, but they've got a real chance. They won 9 out of 10 in qualifications, so not as good as Germany, of course. Good form coming into it. You saw them beat England at Wembley not that long ago. In Bert van Marwijk, they've got a fine coach who has a real tactical brain on him. He gets the team to change tactics at the right time in the right games. And it's kind of surprising, but Van Marwijk, because if you look into his career, he's really achieved very little. I mean, he had a spell with Feyenoord in the early part of the 2000s where they had some success. But aside from that, really nothing. And it was some surprise when he got the Dutch job, because of course a lot of big names from the sort of the 80s era that might have wanted that job too and didn't get it. But he's moulded a real side, and you look at their team sheet now and you'd say, that back four looks a bit dodgy, but they don't concede many goals. They have a particular Dutch way of playing, and they've done that for years, and I think it will serve them very well. They've got tons and tons of firepower. I mean, if you think in Schneider, he's still the cog around which this team's built, and Schneider doesn't play, Holland don't play as well, and that's a bit pithy, but it definitely seems the case. In Robben, they've probably got the most selfish player in world football, but on his day, he's completely destructive, and anyone who can score that goal against United for Bayern Munich a couple of years ago, he can do anything. And in Robin van Persie, a player who's just had the season of his life, and they're not as reliant on Van Persie as Arsenal are at all, because young Klaas Huntelaar, who's just come off scoring over 40 goals in the current season as well. So loads and loads of firepower. Odd fact, Jetro Willems, I don't know whether you saw Holland play the other night, but he had a fine game for Holland. He's 18 years old and only just 18 as well. He's a left back. He might not start the tournament, but he looks like a really exciting player.
Yeah, he's on everyone's players to watch out for list, isn't he, Jetro Willems?
Absolutely everyone's, yeah. It's a little bit because of the notoriety of being so young. He looks like a really good player. Of course, there were tons of press reports around Christmas time that United might make a bid for him.
Jetro Willems is a pretty cool name, I'll give him that. But the thing is, if you're Dutch, you're probably never going to be the person with the coolest name in your country's national team history, because once they had a player called Johnny Rep, you're never going to beat Johnny Rep.
Outstanding player as well, wasn't he, Johnny Rep?
Yeah.
Outstanding. They've got a real good chance. I mean, look, anything could happen in this group. Teams will drop points that we're not expecting, and there could be a chance they'll go out, in the group stage. Funnily enough, Alan Shearer thinks that Germany, Portugal and Holland are going to make semi-finals. Interesting one, that, Alan. I don't know how you quite work that one out, but...
Do you know the order in which the teams play each other in that group?
Yes, I do, of course. Netherlands open up against Denmark, and Germany open up against Portugal, and then Netherlands and Germany play each other in the sort of second round of matches, Denmark against Portugal. So that's obviously going to be a really key game, Holland against Germany. And then in the final round, can Portugal get anything against Holland? Could it come down to that for qualification? Will Denmark already be out when they play Germany? It could matter. I think that match day 2, Holland against Germany, could be an absolute classic. And there's been some brilliant matches between the two of them, and also Frank Rijkaard's Spitgate.
And they are to each other what England think of as Germany being to them. The Dutch are the team that the Germans want to beat, and obviously the Germans are the team that the Dutch want to beat too. So
yes, there's definitely not going to be any love lost.
But I think both the fact that they're Germany and the lie of the fixtures really does favour Germany in that group. The fact that Germany get to play Denmark last, I don't know. I think Germany will end up topping the group. And what do you think of Portugal's chances?
Well, they've had a pretty torrid time, Portugal. So obviously coming out of the World Cup, they didn't do very well, and Carlos Queiroz was already under pressure, and there was a whole controversy with him being suspended for allegedly stopping a random drugs test on the team, and then they had some poor results, and he got very vocal in the press and ended up getting sacked. So it's been a difficult time for them. Paulo Bento's come in. Don't know if you remember him from the 90s. He was a sort of gritty defensive midfielder, played with some of the top clubs in Portugal, and they've turned it around enough that they were able to get into the playoffs and qualified. And for a team with so many talented players, it feels like it was a little bit of a letdown, that qualification, but it could have been worse. And they've got some very good players. I mean, the question is, can they keep it tight enough at the back? Pepe's obviously going to be a key player for them there, Real Madrid central defender, and can they score enough goals from enough areas that are not Cristiano Ronaldo, and if the opposition target Ronaldo in some way, do they have enough elsewhere? And that's the real crux of Portugal. And it feels like the 18th tournament in a row that Portugal do not have a centre forward, because they don't have a good one, but they probably will play with Nani and Ronaldo, and who else plays is the key question there. And Pepe is going to have to be very good at the back. No Ricardo Carvalho, not in the squad. It's a difficult one. I have to say, I'm not sure I can see them doing that well, Portugal. I think it might be a stretch too far for them, even though they have got Ronaldo and they've got some outstanding players in that squad.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're obviously really unfortunate with their draw, and that whole thing about Portuguese centre forwards is just weird. It's like Eusebio has cursed them all or something, because I can't think of a good Portuguese centre forward since Eusebio. They've had such incredibly talented players in other positions. Also don't quite understand why they don't just play Ronaldo as a centre forward, because it's not like he can't do it.
No, he could, but I mean, I think they want to crowbar in a proper centre forward in there, and perhaps they're not as confident in their other wide players. I mean, I'm guessing that Postiga will probably start, but they've tried a few. None of them have really caught fire here. But they're going to be difficult to get past in midfield, I think. I think they actually have a solid base in there. I mean, Veloso and Moutinho as sort of the holding players, and Morelos will be this kind of box-to-box player. And so there's three there that are going to be disciplined. And alongside Pepe, Bruno Alves is an excellent player. I have to say, I don't really rate their keeper, Rui Patricio. I know he was linked with United in the past, but I've never been that impressed. So that might be a weakness. So look, they've got some big-name players. They've got a system that's working for them now. It's based on being solid and exploiting Ronaldo, and Nani potentially, if he has a good tournament. He's certainly talking a good game at the moment, but
he's as good as Ronaldo and deserves to be paid as such.
He is, yeah, or isn't. Let you decide that one, listeners. I'm not sure I believe him. If they were in a different group, you'd say they'd have a good chance of any other group. Really, you'd say they'd had a good chance, but I think this one might be a stretch too far for them.
It's that first game, and I mean, you mentioned the Holland-Germany game as being the pick of the round, but the Holland-Portugal game is going to be, I think, definitive, because if they can get a result there, then that sets them up really nicely. But you can almost imagine them getting a result there, then losing to Denmark and Holland winning both their games and going through or something like that, you know. It's, it's difficult to see, even though, you know, it's getting called the group of death, and understandably so. I still think there are two standout sides in that group. I think that the Dutch and the Germans are a cut above.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and the results over the last couple of years say that. The players in the sides and who they play for say that as well. Portugal have done really well to get this far. The drama with the coach, the fact they had quite a few retirements after the World Cup. Simão retired, didn't he? And he was a big player for them, and Thiago as well. And so they've done great to get this far. That's not patronising them. They've got some brilliant players, but I don't think they're going to be good enough to go any further than this.
Okay, so I guess before we move on to Group C, should we do a few Twitter questions?
Yeah, let's do that.
@writtenoff_MUFC says, name someone who will excel at the Euros and earn themselves a big move, a la Poborski, or as we call him, the Merking.
Well, I've already mentioned one I think might do well. That's Kyriakos Papadopoulos. So I think he's one to look out for. There's a Goev from the Russian side. People have been talking about Kevin Strootman. I'd say I haven't watched him loads. Dutch journalists who know him better say he's not quite ready for the big leagues, but he's been talked of. I think if he can get any game time, Fabio Borini, the Italian striker, young Italian striker, could really surprise a few people. He's an excellent player. And then some of the bigger names that will probably do well, I'm really looking forward to seeing Marco Reus, who plays for Borussia Mönchengladbach, but he's going to Borussia Dortmund next season. They paid a lot of money to take him back there. And Hummels, the Dortmund defender as well, he's a really excellent player. And another one you might hear an awful lot about in the summer is the Spanish left back Alba, who apparently United are interested in. I'm not sure United will be able to pay the fee to get him, especially if he has a really good tournament.
@Ricey-san says, which United player do you think will perform best at the Euros? Got a sneaky feeling for Patrice. I think after the disaster that was World Cup 2010, I think I've got a feeling about this French squad. We'll come on to Group D in a little bit, but I think Patrice could have a big tournament, especially since he'll be able to play as an actual left back as opposed to a kind of, you know, all-encompassing left side of the park player responsible.
He had a good game the other night when France beat Estonia, but he had an absolute stinker against Iceland before that, where he was responsible in all three of the goals, I think.
Well, yeah, he'll do that, won't he, Patrice? But then he'll have a brilliant one.
It's good for him that he's away from France, though, because he does get the crowd on his back in France. I mean, they boo him, which is pretty ridiculous, but they do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, I'd love it if Senada, zop, just like a bit of Danny to do well. I think it's very difficult because he plays for England, which is a very unfortunate thing to happen to a person. But I think he could have a good tournament.
Should pick Ghana, Danny.
Yeah. So, which nation will have the biggest meltdown/drama? Asks Colin RHCP.
England.
Yeah, it could be. Could get some proper English meltdown. Obviously, you've always got the Dutch. I mean, you know, the whole history of the modern game teaches us that the Dutch have the potential to melt down at tournaments, but they haven't done it for a while. And you don't get the sense that they're these kind of driven factions where you've got Johan Cruyff telling the Ajax players to ignore all the other players.
No, and in Van Barwick, they seem to have a kind of unifying presence. You're right. They haven't had that kind of drama. I mean, ditto with Italy. Sometimes you say that. I mean, Balotelli's in there. He's definitely got the potential to cause some trouble. But Prandelli has got them playing some really solid football after the disaster that was the 2010 World Cup. So again, I don't think there'll be a real meltdown there. I think it could be the tournament where the hosts both do really poorly.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me one jot if the hosts, both Ukraine and Poland, lost all three of their games.
I also wouldn't be surprised if Ukraine got out of Group D, actually.
Take points off England, I suppose.
Well, yeah, and Sweden, potentially, you know. @office_monkey asks my favourite question of the day. What is your favourite national anthem that presumably that'll be on display at the Euros?
The Russian anthem is brilliant. It's stirring.
And talking of stirring, I can't look beyond La Marseillaise, I'm afraid. Just because of that scene in Casablanca where everyone starts singing it. Goosebumps. And we've had a question from @Chris Torrio saying, what is this year's group of death? Obviously, he has to go with Group B, as we've just said we will. But I just want to mention answering the question because his Irish friends insist that Group C is the group of death.
The group of Irish death, yes.
A couple of the other questions we'll come on to later in the thing. How many will Zlatan Ibrahimovic score against England? I'm going with 14.
Who's turned down a move to Paris Saint-Germain this week. Interesting there. Unlike Zlatan, to shy away from a money-spinning move. But yeah, he could well score a few. England are going to be tight. Group D comes later, but it's funny. You think about top goal scorers and the Euros, because it is a slightly shorter tournament. It often, and if you look through the history of the Euros, there's quite a few occasions where a player just has to score a hat-trick or something and he'll become the top goal scorer. So could Zlatan put 3 past England in order to become the top goal scorer? Maybe. It seems like a long shot.
Yeah, slightly long shot. But some of those goals will definitely be long shots. Talking of Zlatan, favourite goal in the Euros history, Ed, I want this in a field where that Van Basten goal doesn't exist, because that's obviously the answer. But apart from the Van Basten goal, what's your favourite?
Well, apart from that Van Basten goal, it was the Van Basten goal against England where he absolutely twisted the entire English back four. I mean, they were basically falling over on their arses and doing a bit of, chair dancing on the ground as he twisted past them and flashed it past Peter Shilton. Another fantastic goal. What a striker Van Basten was, and really cruel football was to cut that career short. And I suppose for the drama, although, I'm English, I suppose, but Ray Houghton's header against England in Stuttgart. Talk about pulling off a surprise. Another stunning one from Euro 88.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my favourite goal in Euros, apart from the Van Basten one, was Zlatan against Italy in 2004, where the man did a flying backheel volley.
Yep, I remember it well.
I was watching it. I was in a bar in a hotel after I was working on a film, and it was late. It'd been a long day. We were watching it, and the goal looked kind of scrappy because it was on a small telly in the distance. And then I saw what had happened on the replay. I've leapt up from my seat and made sure that everyone I was with saw it, because what an incredible moment that was.
Trezeguet, Euro 2000 final, extra time, flashed in with his left foot to win.
Oh,
another pretty stunning goal.
Pretty exciting. Okay, this question leads us nicely into the Group C preview. At Trisha asking, I have a funny feeling that the Republic of Ireland and Spain will progress out of their groups and Italy and Croatia won't. Should I be on meds? Ed, give us the Group C breakdown.
Well, we'll start with Croatia, because it's an interesting one, Croatia. I mean, they had their golden generation, didn't they, in the mid to late 90s, and they're nowhere near as good as that now. I mean, when you think about that Croatia side, you think of Davor Šuker cheaping it over Peter Schmeichel in Euro 96. What an absolutely stunning goal that was, and as they opened the tournament, really put Croatia on the map, I think, in terms of football, but not as good at the moment. Slaven Bilic has had his ups and downs in 6 years of managing Croatia, always being linked away, isn't he? But he hasn't done it yet, but he is after this tournament, so it's definitely his last tournament. He's going off to manage Lokomotiv Moscow. Will they perform for him? Well, they've got some really good players. I mean, Luka Modric is obviously the kind of pivot around which they build their midfield. He's not going to win player of the tournament because he's not that kind of player. He'll sit deep and he'll be that kind of quarterback player, but he gets them moving and ticking. Real key for them is, can they score the goals? In Jelavic from Everton, they've got a player who can't stop scoring at the moment, but not on the international scene, and that might be a problem. And obviously Ivica Olic from Bayern Munich is injured and he's out of the tournament, and so this could be Croatia's problem. It's a difficult group for them. Obviously Spain and Italy are going to be favourites, and I think scoring goals will be an issue. But they qualified, and that was beyond what they could do for the World Cup. Obviously England beat them to World Cup qualification, thrashed them in fact, didn't they, for that 5-1 win. They've got a good side, good players, they're functional in terms of how they play and how they set up tactically. Can they score enough goals to actually do any real damage in this group? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. I love watching Modric play, but Croatia are obviously not the side they were when they burst onto the scene. They were so electrifying, weren't they? And they kind of raged out the blocks. Now I wonder whether we joked about calling Group C the group of death, but I wonder whether part of that is just that residual memory of Croatia, in the same way with the Czech Republic. They're not the side they once were, are they?
No, they're definitely not the side they once were, and I don't expect them to progress out of the group, to be honest. I mean, they qualified through the playoffs anyway, beat a Turkey side that is not the best Turkey side we've ever seen either. And so, I mean, they've got some good players though. They've got some names that people will know anyway. Chorluka plays, Jelavic, Modric, Cerna, who's a midfielder, long-standing midfielder. I think in Pletikosa they probably have the worst keeper in the tournament though, and that's going some. So that could be a problem for them too. no real United interest in this team. No, I don't think we've ever had a Croatian player, have we? Although Fergie's forever wanting Luka Modric, although that one probably is never going to happen.
Yeah, no United interest there, but some considerable United interest elsewhere in the group.
There is, Spain, former United player Gerard Piqué will marshal their back four. Obviously, no Carlos Puyol, so that's a real blow for Spain. Piqué's not had a great season in Barcelona. He was out of the team by the end of the season. That could be a problem for them. They're still playing exactly the same style. They keep the ball. They're going to keep the ball all day long. And so you could argue they don't need to play with any defenders. It'd be interesting who they play at the back alongside Piqué, because they could play Javi Martinez, who's played there all season long for Athletic Bilbao. They could play Ramos, and rather than playing him at right back as they did in the last tournament, and play Arbeloa on the right. As I said, I think they'll play Alba on the left, and they'll play a very similar style, both tactically speaking and technically, to Barcelona. Can they score enough goals, though, to win the tournament? So teams will park the bus against Spain, because that's how you beat them, right? Switzerland did it in the last World Cup. This is what Chelsea did to Barcelona. So they will face this. In Torres, at least he had a good end to the season, but he's not had a great 18 months. No David Villa, he's out. But in Xavi, Silva and Iniesta, they are going to create chances. Can they break teams down when teams don't want to play them? And that'll be the key to whether Spain win or not. I don't see them having any trouble getting out of this group, though.
Llorente presumably will play a lot, you would think.
Yeah, I don't think he'll start. I think they've been talking about starting with Torres, so I think that'll probably be how they set up. I mean, they'll have the two holders in Alonso and Busquets. I don't think that'll change at all. And assuming Xavi's fit, I mean, obviously he has his injury problems, and Iniesta and probably Silva rather than Pedro. I mean, if they want to go a bit more attacking, they might go for Pedro, a bit more direct, isn't he? So they've still got lots and lots of options, lots of quality and depth. Didn't really go for anything radical in terms of their squad selection, I didn't think. There's a few players who could have been in there. They didn't go for Munain from Atletico, for example. And obviously no David De Gea. He's off to the Olympics. Casillas has hogged that number one jersey for the last decade anyway, and he probably will do for another 5 or 6 years. So they're still an outstanding side, but this might well be the last tournament they are an outstanding side. And obviously Xavi's getting on a bit, and so is Alonso, and so there's a few question marks here, and David Villa will be 32 by the time the next tournament comes around, so this might be the last hurrah for this team.
It might be the last hurrah for this team, but I don't think it's going to be the last hurrah for Spain, because they've got succession planning pretty well sorted, haven't they?
They have. I mean, their Olympic side will be very good. I mean, if you look at I mentioned Munain and obviously De Gea, and Thiago Alcantara from Barcelona is also in that side, and Pacheco, who's not really quite made it at Liverpool. I mean, he was the real big thing, wasn't he, next? But they've got some really excellent younger players. Barcelona keep churning them out, don't they? So you're right about the succession planning, but are they going to be of the same quality? That's the question, because they've been absolutely outstanding. I mean, one of the best club sides in Barcelona and national sides ever.
Yeah, I mean, 2008 they won the last European Championships. Obviously their defining moment in the history of the Euros. It changed everything for Spain, that did. Gave them that sense of belief, which they then took on to the 2010 World Cup and won that. For them to win 3 international tournaments on the bounce would be, it would be a feat like no other, really, in modern football.
Of course, they did win the European Championships in 1964, but that was that weird style of European Championships where they really only played 2 games in order to win the tournament.
Even England could do that.
Yeah, well, or didn't.
But yeah, I think Spain are still the most likely team to win this tournament, Yes,
I think they are, because I think for as much as we laud Holland and laud Germany for their extreme talent, Spain are still going to monopolise the ball against those teams. So can the opposition get the ball enough to not be beaten?
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be really fascinating to watch.
It will, and in Italy they've got a tough opponent in this group, I think, and I think that's probably good for Spain, actually, because I didn't think they started the last World Cup particularly speedily, did they? So Italy have got a much, much better team than they had at the 2010 World Cup. Completely fell apart in South Africa, didn't they? And they ran away with the qualification group. To be fair, they didn't have any real quality to beat. Estonia, Serbia, Slovenia, Northern Ireland and Faroes, not the toughest qualification group you could ever have. They only only conceded twice. It's a kind of irony, this one, because everyone says, oh, Italian teams tough at the back, they know how to defend. Serie A has never been more attacking. I mean, the amount of teams you get playing 3 at the back and 3 at the front and really going for it. And they've got a great goals to games ratio in Serie A at the moment. Here we are having an Italian side that's tight, and they really have become a lot tighter under Prandelli, and that's what's going to make them difficult to beat. But do they have the real star names? And that's the big question, especially up top. I mean, it looks like Di Natale, the Udinese forward, who's not always been appreciated at international level, I think, will be their main man. I mean, but he's 34 now, so how much is he going to provide towards the back end of the tournament? Incredible how many goals he's scored at club level for Udinese, though. In Andrea Pirlo, everything will go through him in midfield. He's still the key to that midfield for Italy. Again, aging, but at the back, really tight. Barzagli from Juventus had an outstanding season, championship winning season, obviously, with Juventus, and that's the real key. No United interest in this squad again. Giuseppe Rossi, Crocs, so not in the squad. He was their leading forward, wasn't he, for some time, Rossi, but won't be at the tournament.
No, which is a real shame. Italian defining moment.
It's difficult to pick. I mean, obviously they won in 68, but they only played 3 games and they scored 3 goals, and they only won actually once and beat Yugoslavia in the final. So is that their defining moment? Hard to say that. I think that's more of a random fact, isn't it? One of those odd ones. Maybe it's a bit more of a negative thing. Maybe it's that 2000 final, and it took a while to get over that one, didn't they? That stunning goal in the dying moments of injury time from David Trezeguet.
When they did manage to get over it, they got over it in pretty spectacular fashion, though, didn't they?
They did rather, didn't they? Yeah. Not in the Euros, though.
A team that's had a defining moment in international football against the Italians is their Group C rivals, the Republic of Ireland.
The boys in green have thousands of fans there, no doubt. Normally England's the team that takes the most fans, but reports have it that not too many England fans are going because it's so expensive to get, and yada yada yada, all of that kind of stuff. Done really well to qualify Ireland. Trapattoni's got them playing, you could say, a negative style of football. They're definitely hard to beat. They don't score a lot of goals. This is not open, flowing, attacking football from Ireland. But then again, if you look at their squad, you wouldn't expect it, right? I mean, they have not got loads of world stars in their squad. They've got quite a few players who are playing in Scotland or in the Championship or at lower ranked clubs in the Premier League, and they qualified really well. I mean, came second to Russia in that group, but you'd kind of expect that, and smashed Estonia in the playoff and done really well to get there. First tournament in 10 years. Of course, they were robbed of going to the World Cup, and so it's well deserved. And I think the key players are going to be the defensive players, really. So, if they can be tight enough in this group, if they can get a point out of Spain or Italy, wouldn't say that's outside the bounds of possibility, then they might well get through this group. So Shay Given and Richard Dunn are going to be 2 of their key players there, right through the spine, and obviously Robbie Keane's got over 50 goals at international level. You can't discount that at any point. So are they going to be good enough to get out of this group? I doubt it, but you never know. And that Italy game could be a real crucial one. So, can they get a win somewhere in that tournament, in this group? Can they beat Croatia? Can they get a point out of Italy? It might be enough to take them through.
I can't believe you talked about key Republic of Ireland players and did not drop the G-bomb. That's how they're going to get a win. That's how they're going to get a point. Screamers from 40 yards from Gibson.
Yeah, it's not much of a tactical strategy, though, is it?
Shoot.
But the thing with Gibson, though, he's never really held a place down in the Irish team, and there's
that's because he's not very good.
It's because he's not very good. It's also because Trapattoni told him he had to go and play for Stoke, and he refused to do that. Will we see him start? Probably. But does it mean Ireland are going to be good enough? Is he ever going to get enough chances to shoot, or is he just going to be shooting from 40 yards and be really wayward about it? Who knows? I mean, I'm not even certain that Gibson will start. They have a particular way of playing. They'll play off Doyle, the front man, and Keane will drop deep. They'll obviously got mighty John O'Shea probably play at one of the full-back positions, but I can't really see them doing loads in this tournament. One really random thing about Ireland, they've got 3 players that officially don't have a club at the moment. Darren O'Day, or to give him his full name, Darren O'Dear, if you've ever seen him defending, the former Celtic player now, hasn't got a club. Keith Andrews from West Brom, no club. Paul Green from Derby, no club.
Interesting. I presumably, if they have good European tournaments, they'll be snapped up by top teams across, all the scouts will be there, won't they?
Yeah. Unlikely, I have to say. But they have got some good players, though. So James McLean, who had an outstanding season with Sunderland, he'll probably come off the bench, but he could be a real dark horse. Lots of controversy about his inclusion, of course, because he was born in Northern Ireland, played for Northern Ireland under 21s and switched allegiance. And Aidan McGeady plays in Russia, and he'll probably start on the left for Ireland, and again could cause lots of damage.
And a defining moment for me, for the Republic of Ireland, will always be that 1-0 against England in 1988.
Ray Houghton's header, it's a stunning result for Ireland. Managed to repeat the trick a couple of years later, didn't he, when he scored in the World Cup against Italy. But yeah, definitely their defining Euro moment. Came of age, Jack Charlton's up and at him, long ball route one side.
Absolutely. So on to Group D then, featuring the team that they beat in that game, but also featuring the tournament's other co-hosts, the Ukraine, nailed on co-favourites in Mullet Watch, unquestionably. The Ukraine are considerably more experienced international squad than their co-hosts. At age 35, Chelsea Hall of Famer Andrei Shevchenko still captains the side, which is coached by former Ukrainian MP and Ballon d'Or winner Ole Blokhin. So he's been not only elected, but elected and re-elected to the Ukrainian parliament until he stepped down to concentrate on football. This is his second go-round as coach of the national side. All bar two of the squad ply their club trade in their home country. Bayern Munich midfielder Anatoly Timoshik and Liverpool Hall of Famer and current Dynamo Moscow player Andrei Voronin are the exceptions.
Him of the ponytail.
Andrei Voronin has 7 goals in 70 starts for the Ukraine. 70 games for the Ukraine. He's hit that coveted 1 in 10 that all international strikers aim for.
Well, I mean, if Ukraine make the final, he might get 0.4 of a goal.
There's no doubt that there's a good deal of attacking talent in the Ukraine side, and the fact that he might be up against John Terry means that even Andriy Shevchenko will probably still be quick enough to damage Hodgson's Brave Boys. At 59-1, home advantage is clearly not playing into too many people's minds, but with Sweden and England looking eminently beatable, I wouldn't be shocked if Ukraine squeaked out of Group D. I mean, they are the weakest side in Group D, I think, even with England in there, but they've got some players. Timoshik, as you mentioned, an excellent player, and legitimately, the problem with Shevchenko is he can't run anymore, but he won't need to if he's up against John Terry.
That's true, no pace in the English back four, is there? So, I can't see it. I can't see them doing anything really. It'll be a real surprise. But of course, England might be completely rubbish. They might get a point out of England. They may well beat Sweden and then probably only need a draw with France to go through. So it could, and they're at home, and yeah.
They're at home as well. And, it's going to be properly hostile. It's not going to be like South Africa.
Well, we've seen quite exactly how hostile it can be there, right? So
yeah, I mean, that's it. Hostile and not in a good way, but for the Ukrainian players, it's going to be totally familiar. They're all playing in the Ukraine pretty much. There's that, those club connections, and perhaps they've got some team spirit. That's supposition, but you never. I think it's a mistake to write them off, given that England are obviously fallible, and Sweden, I'm not sure really. In lieu of a proper roundup of Sweden, they qualified second behind the Netherlands with plus 20 goal difference in 10 games, beating Finland 5-0, San Marino 5-0 and 6-0 on the way, coached by former Rosenborg man Eric Hamren, and they're a well-organised, hard-to-beat side with genuine flair in some attacking positions, for example Elmander, and former Mullet Watch legend Christian Wilhelmsson. But regardless of all that, Sweden for me are summed up in one word: Zlatan.
Oh, I thought it was going to be smorgasbord.
He didn't win the league this season for what would seem to be the first time in his career, so the boy Zlatan's going to have a point to prove.
He's on the slide. He wasn't top goal scorer. He didn't win the league, and that's it. Career down the toilet.
No, this is it. This is it. He's got a point to prove now. He's going to be hungry. His flying backheel volley against Italy in Euro 2004 is my abiding memory of that tournament, and a good part of the reason why he has an honorary black belt in Taekwondo. With all due respect to their fine country, I think that goal probably counts as their defining moment at the Euros tournaments. They're 69 to win the thing, 69-1 to win the thing, but that seems long because Zlatan.
I also remember another stunning Swedish goal, Thomas Brolin against England in 92.
Brolin, darling, Brolin. Yeah, sadly the Swedes have let themselves down on the mullet front lately, and we're left with glorious memories and Zlatan's samurai hair. We've put it off too long, Ed. We're going to have to talk about them. It's time for England.
Oh, God, it's awful, isn't it? It's awful. Is there ever a tournament England don't go into without some red top fueled disgrace of some kind? And this time it's not drinking, it's the controversy around Rio Ferdinand's exclusion and double exclusion and exactly why he isn't in the squad.
What reasons, yeah? No, listen, the thing is, I'm not naturally an England hater. I've often been an England fan in my life. Euro 96 I remember incredibly fondly. That 4-1 against the Netherlands was just a glorious moment, a brilliant day. And I don't know, there seemed to be, just slightly less obnoxious spirit around England at that time. The Italia 90 was a wonderful tournament, and that England side was so exciting. Gascoigne and Lineker, and Lineker was the talisman, and he was a thoroughly decent bloke, and it was kind of, they were kind of all right. But the John Terry, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard era of England has been pretty depressing, and I don't think I've really enjoyed them since the 2002 World Cup.
Right, yeah, I think it's been pretty awful all through. I mean, yeah, you're right, Euro 2004, Rooney's stomp and getting knocked out on penalties, didn't qualify for 2008, 2006 World Cup was a disaster. Yeah, so England have not had a good tournament for quite some time now. I just can't see them doing it now. There's not enough up front to cause them real damage. Midfield is a disaster zone. I mean, if you're talking about a midfield that is going to contain Parker and Gerrard who's habitually ill-disciplined, and I don't mean in a fouling way, although he does that too, but in midfield he won't keep the position. Hodgson's all about shape. Everything he is shape, and I can't see England being disciplined enough to keep that.
And just because I've done the research and it seemed unfair to just ignore England and not give them the same treatment I gave everyone else, they're managed by Roy Hodgson, don't know if you're aware of that, but they lack Michael Carrick and Rio Ferdinand, unfortunately. England's three best players are obviously Danny Welbeck, Wayne Rooney, and a smushed together amalgam of Chris Smalling, Phil Jones and Ashley Young. At 14.5 to 1 to win the tournament, it seems ludicrous given how incredibly pedestrian their midfield is. Full of Liverpool players, despite the fact that Liverpool are terrible and missing their best player for two group games. It could be a rough old tournament for England, and failure to qualify from Group D doesn't look particularly implausible. Also, Carroll's hair is not enough to make up for the fact that they haven't had fielded a mullet since Waddle got rid of his in 1990, which directly caused him to miss that penalty.
Directly.
Their defining moment in the European Championships, undoubtedly, that 4-1 magnificent victory over the Netherlands that I just mentioned in the group stages of the wonderful Euro 96. Be sort of pleased if they manage something like that, although the inclusion of John Terry and the subsequent implications of all that for Rio makes this an England side that's a bit hard to like. Although, Zup, my boy, well, say nada, obviously.
It is hard to like them. I kind of wanted to, I've been on a downer about England for many, many years now, and I thought Hodgson was the right choice, because he is a coach, and that's what you need at international level, and the best England managers have been proper coaches, and so from that perspective I thought it was the right choice. I thought bringing Gary Neville in was an excellent choice too. There was always going to be a core of United players in there, so there were plenty of reasons to like them and want them to do well, and then everything that's happened over the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks has kind of really put me off supporting England in any kind of way at all. I mean, I don't feel like I can support a team that has John Terry in, because I think he's an absolute, travesty of a human being as well as a footballer, and I think he'll be a weak link, and that's what makes the whole thing with Ferdinand so depressing for me, really. The fact is, Ferdinand's had a very good season. He's been injury-free since the autumn. He can play plenty of games in succession, as he showed over Easter, and he's a defender who manages to keep the ball and is in the positions at the right time. And then you have John Terry, who's consistently found out on the international stage. Any kind of technical player or a player that has decent movement will find him out for sure, because it always happens, and England will end up shipping goals as a result, and they just had not enough going forward to score enough goals to do damage to any decent side at all.
Well, I mean, the one counter to that is they got Welbeck and Young up front.
Can they get enough of the ball to them? That's the question.
And will he actually play Welbeck, or is he going to start with Andy Carroll?
Well, you know exactly how England will play if Carroll plays. They will launch it, right? As much as the temptation might be to try and play through midfield initially, and that might be what Hodgson wants them to do. They're English players, and they will launch it, and they'll go very, very direct, very quickly, as soon as the game's not going their way, if Andy Carroll plays. So the only chance England have got of playing any kind of possession-based football is if Welbeck plays, and that's a really big call from Hodgson, who's overcompensating big style at the moment. I mean, how many Liverpool players are in the squad? An awful lot, and the latest one, a complete joke. I mean, Martin Kelly might actually become a very good player, but he's not new to the scene, He's been around a long time now, and just hasn't really progressed in the way that many people expected. he's got about 30 games over 5 years. This is not a Rob Jones moment where the Liverpool right back of the 90s where you saw him and thought, bloody hell, there's a quality player. I just don't see it in the same way with Kelly, and so people make comparisons with Ferdinand in World Cup 98. He played 40 games for West Ham that season, Ferdinand. It's not like he was just some up-and-coming youngster. It's his third season in professional football, and he played the full campaign. So it's a bizarre choice, and England could be in real trouble if Terry, I mean, as much as I criticise Terry, if Terry's hamstring goes, which it might well do because it's sore, England have got a real problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's problems all over that squad, and the fact that they've got no pace in central midfield at all means that they're not going to get anywhere particularly deep into the tournament. And, hopefully it'll all be over. I mean, not hopefully, because fine, if they do well, that's fine. But if it is all over early, that's good because Rooney can come home and have a rest.
He can, yeah. Hopefully he just plays the one game and then he'll have a nice long rest before ka-ching, the United Summer Tour happens.
At Bergeron asks, what performance will England need for Roy Hodgson not to get fired? I think that's a really interesting question.
Not being humiliated. I think the Football Association have invested in a 4-year contract. They're not going to fire him even if I think even if England lost all 3 games, which they probably won't. I think they'll get points out of Sweden and Ukraine. But even if that happened, I don't see Hodgson getting fired unless it really blows up. The thing is, if John Terry is found guilty in July, and I know I keep harping back to this, but it's going to overshadow the entire tournament. If he is found guilty, the FA and Roy Hodgson have gone out and bet all their chips on a guy who would have been a criminally guilty racist. Now, it's a big if, of course, because there's a criminal trial and we don't know that he is guilty or not yet. So that could be an issue. So, if the politics of this all swing round and Hodgson is seen as being in the wrong camp there politically, that could be a problem for him. But I don't think any performance on the pitch will get him sacked.
At Jack Hawkins 23 asks, which 2 teams do we think will make it out of England's group? I mean, France, who we're just about to come on to, I think definitely. And for me, I think Sweden probably are the second team. I think England are really going to struggle.
I think I might have predicted on Twitter a while ago, I think England will lose to France and draw with Sweden and Ukraine, and that will be them out.
Okay, so you think Sweden will go through with France?
I agree. France have got an excellent side, and I think they're the favourites in that group for good reason.
France. 2 wins in the history of the European Championships means that picking a defining moment is a little tricky, but for me, Michel Platini's complete dominance, 2 hat-tricks in the 1984 tournament, just nudges that into the lead over the Trezeguet moment in 2000.
But they did have a wonderful team in 84, didn't they?
I mean, fans of football, because they were so French about the whole thing, Michel Platini in his untouched shorts and that general sense that these people really were seriously considering what they were going to have for lunch the next day and having conversations about poetry and stuff, They were like incredibly French as well as being brilliant. So managed by Manchester United Hall of Famer Laurent Blanc and featuring United captain and unofficial club historian Patrice Evra, there's plenty for United fans to enjoy about Les Bleus. Potentially devastating going forward with the still only 24 years old Karim Benzema leading the line, Nasri, Kabaye, Ribéry and others lined up to provide chances. Their status as 10-1 fourth favourites is well earned. Potentially suspect defensively, France made heavy work of qualification, but having finally worked through the hangover of their absolutely disastrous World Cup in 2010, and with genuinely forward-thinking, tactically astute football man at the helm in place of the ridiculous living spitting image puppet Ramon Domenech, the French must believe themselves to be in with a shot of winning this. They lack the balance in the squad of Spain or Germany, but they probably do rival them for just sheer attacking talent. I suspect they're going to blow Group D away, and are certainly opponents that no team will look forward to facing. Mullet-wise, their dark horses, don't rule them out completely. I think they do have a chance of fielding a surprise French mullet with some sort of ironic style.
Yeah, you reckon Patrice Evra is going to grow one in time?
Oh, that would be awesome.
No, well, Mexes has got a nice ponytail going on, so you never know. Yeah, I think France's problem, I mean, you mentioned at the back, it is a bit of a problem at the back. Mexes was horrible against Iceland, and he wasn't much better the other night either. And Rami will probably play alongside him, and I have to say, I've not been convinced, and obviously Evra's a mistake waiting to happen sometimes. And in midfield, they've got to get the right mix, because Cabaye will probably start now, but Mvia's injured, isn't he? So
he's still in the squad though, isn't he?
Still in the squad, and Diarra will probably come in as a result. But there were question marks about his fitness. Will they play Malouda? He's not had a good season, but he played in central midfield the other night, so that looks like that might happen. But up front, Benzema, Ribéry, Nasri, Giroud, does he come into it? Had such a great season in Montpellier.
Yeah, Martin as well. player with enormous bundle of talent, and they've got some surprises in the mix as well. I just think Benzema, I couldn't believe he was only 24. It feels like he's been around forever, but I guess he's still a very young player, and I feel like maybe he's going to have a big tournament this time. He's never really had a big tournament for France, has he?
He had a big season for Real Madrid, so yeah, I mean, it could well be that Benzema. I think I picked out Mesut Ozil as a player I think will be player of the tournament, but I noted down my second favourite was Karim Benzema, and I think he could well be top scorer. And I mean, it depends. I mean, they might bring Giroud into the side, but it looks like Benzema will start the tournament. I think he's due a big one. Yeah.
I'm having a little moral quandary about whether to actually support France because of the whole thing with Laurent Blanc and the racial quotas and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was a very unseemly episode, wasn't it?
It was a very unseemly episode, and I was thinking, well, all through the kind of Evra Suarez thing, I always said, like, if I had been a Liverpool fan, I would still have taken the view that what they did was completely unacceptable and supported the other side. But the way Laurent Blanc is with his black players there's none of that sense of. I know it's just a very odd, very French sort of situation. The French have a different discussion about immigration and integration than happens in English public discourse. But the fact that it was behind closed doors, the fact that he initially denied saying it and was then confronted by a transcript,
yep.
It is messy, and I don't think you can write him off as a kind of horrible closet racist or anything. But still, it was not a pleasant situation. But the fact that. The fact that, in the 2010 World Cup, a lot of the right wing, the socially right wing aspects of French society pointed the blame at the kind of black players because in 1998 the triumph of that mixed side was seen as such a triumph for the left in France, so the kind of disaster in 2010 was a stick to beat them with.
There's no team that's more influenced by politics in France. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, they had political inquiries after the World Cup in South Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. But then in the end, Laurent Blanc is stuck behind he's stuck with Patrice Evra, and he could easily have got rid of him to score points, because they do have options at left back, but he didn't.
Well, they do. I mean, they have Gaël Clichy, and that is a question that needs to be answered. I mean, I don't think Clichy for talent is a patch on Evra, but in terms of form, he had a decent season at City, didn't he? And Evra didn't have his best season for United, didn't have his worst season either, and there's been an awful lot on his mind, the whole thing with Suarez, his brother's death, post-World Cup fallout and all that, and it's really affected him over 2 years. But he's still in the side. He had the full 90 against Estonia, and I think he'll probably start the tournament.
Any team with Patrice Evra in it is all right by me,
That's right. That's right. So, I mean, I think they'll qualify. I think you look at the back four and you think, could concede goals, and that might be what stops them going really far in the tournament.
But then it also might force them to play super attacking football and play to their strengths and make them really exciting to watch. That's a possibility also. So it's so exciting, isn't it? So, Ed, who's going to win the tournament?
Well, I picked Spain in my season preview back in August, so I suppose I want to stick with them. I think they're still just about good enough. It's not theirs to lose, but the ball is theirs to lose. Literally, they're going to have 65-70% possession. Other teams are going to have to break them down, which can happen. I mean, Spanish back four, obviously, not the best in the tournament, but will teams get enough ball to get it off them? I'm not sure they will, and I think Spain will win in the end.
I'm going to pick Germany just to pick somebody different. I'd quite like to pick France, but I just think ultimately that Germany and Spain are the most solid teams. And okay, so you got to pick a dark horse. That's someone further out in the rankings than England in terms of the betting.
Well, Russia, I think, could do okay. Depends on their next round, of course, but I think they'll get through that group, and so I think they're a good side of the teams that are outside of France, Holland, Germany, Spain. I don't think Portugal are a dark horse because I don't think they'll do that well.
No, I am going to go for ridiculous, and I don't mean to win the tournament, but I think Sweden could have a better tournament than people are expecting them to have. That's my feeling, but it might just be some residual Zlatan bias. Top scorer Karim Benzema. That's my random guess.
No, that was my pick as well. I have him written down here in front of to me, and there you go. I've got to stick with that one. I think he could well be the top scorer. I mean, I suppose you could shout out to Lewandowski from Poland, but I don't think they're going to do very well. So he'd have to have a storming game somewhere.
Yeah,
and potentially Van Persie. But again, as I said, he's not really the key around which that Dutch side is built.
the Hunter could get a few for Holland.
I don't know whether he'll actually start, but yeah, you never know. He might force his way into the side. Yeah.
I don't know. From Germany, I think the strikers are not the strongest position, is it? I mean, Mario Gomez had one of the worst tournaments a person has ever had at the last European Championships, didn't he?
And an absolute stinker in the Champions League final, but he has got over 40 goals this season, so you can't discount him.
No, that's true. And that, unlike Huntelaar, that's not goals in the Dutch league, so they do actually count. So Mesut Ozil for you for player of the tournament. I guess I've got to pick someone else, so I'm going to pick United connection. Not at all. Wesley Sneijder. I think he might have another good tournament.
Yes, almost a United connection. Just the £250,000 a week between him and a United connection. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good tournament. Why the hell not? I mean, it's a bizarre tournament because it's spread out over such a long geographical distance. I wonder whether that will affect the atmosphere. I hope the stadiums are full. There's certainly some very nice stadiums. If you're a geek like that, off you go to stadiumporn.com and check out all the stadiums. There's some bizarre looking ones, and I don't know whether it'll have quite the same atmosphere as, say, the World Cup in South Africa, but I'm really looking forward to it.
It definitely won't have the same atmosphere as the World Cup in South Africa because there won't be any people of other ethnicities than white at this tournament in the crowds. And it is a real problem. I mean, you know, that Panorama documentary was terrifying. And yes, there's problems with racial issues in other parts of world football, not least of which our own fine, green and pleasant land. But, you know, I really hope that the worst fears of people don't come to pass, because that could really overshadow what will otherwise be a really exciting tournament.
Yes, it could. Interesting little tidbit in the news today. Many of the team's shirts have poison in them, apparently, and a consumer group has warned that what's inside these shirts could be poisonous and dangerous. I don't think they were talking about John Terry there. I think they were talking about the polyester, but you never know.
I want to give a massive shout out to our friend Duarte, who was sadly horrendously injured in a football match, and so is going to be off his feet for quite some time to come, so can't do too much to help, but at least we'll give you a Rantcast to pass an hour or an hour and a half in the case of this particular episode.
Yes, get better soon, and I hope everyone enjoys Euro 2012. Ukraine and Poland, it's definitely a different destination for this tournament, but I'm looking forward to it. There is, as we said, a bit of a United connection there, so if you don't have any particular country affiliation for this tournament, you can have a United affiliation and cheer on our boys and our ex-boys, and we'll be with you throughout this tournament. We'll do another show this time next week and another one the week after that to preview the final, and I think it's going to be a really good tournament. I'm looking forward to it. I think there's some really good teams out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Ed, I mean, presuming that you're not supporting England, who have you picked as your team for the tournament?
Well, I let my Twitter followers pick for me, so I put it out on Twitter a couple of weeks ago after I decided that I couldn't support a team that, although might be the nation of my birth, contains John Terry. I don't want him representing me in any fashion, so I asked them and they said I should support Ireland, so that's what I'm going to be doing. I'll be downing many, many pints of Guinness.
I am of mixed parentage, so my mum is French, my dad's parents are both German, so I get to pick between them, but I never really had too much affinity with Germany and spent a lot of time in France, have lots of family and friends there, so I guess I'm going to support Les Bleus, and also managed by an ex-United player, so there you go.
There you go. Well, we'll see you this time next week.
Enjoy all the football.
Start wearing purple, wearing purple. Start wearing purple for me now. All your sanity and wits, they will all vanish, I promise. It's just a matter of time, so yeah. Start wearing purple, wearing purple. Start wearing purple for me now. All your sanity and wits, they will all vanish, I promise. It's just a matter of time. I know you since you were at 20. I was 20 and thought that some years from now a purple little lady will be perfect for dirty old and useless clown. So yeah, start wearing purple, wearing purple. Start wearing
it all from Diogenes to the Foucault, from Ложечкин to паспорту. И я клянусь, обоссав 2 пальца, что ты, что музыка пошла от звука в мух. Start wearing purple, wearing purple, na-na-na-na. Start wearing purple for me now. All your sanity and wits, they will all vanish, I promise. It's just a matter of time. So yeah, start wearing purple, wearing purple. Start wearing purple for me now. So why don't you start wearing purple? Why don't you start wearing purple? Start wearing purple for me
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.